breathing in.
Kartik Vyas has invested over 32 years in the study, application, training and research in the field of professional personal development through yoga psychology, subconscious transformation and integrating behavioral sciences and NLP, that's neuro-linguistic programming. Mr. Vyas excels at presenting the ancient wisdom of India in contemporary fashion and motivates his audience to live inspired lives.
Thank you, Nazneen. The Yogasutra of Patanjali. How big do you think this text is? Any guesses? This was Sri Yogendra ji, the founder of the Yoga Institute. And this person who said, I have been waiting for you for more than 100 years, was Paramhams Madhav Das ji. Madhav Das ji takes Mani, is what was his name at that time, into his inner room, makes him sit down, puts his hand on his head, and Mani goes into a trance. Madhav Das ji goes out, continues his sermon. Madhav Das ji finishes the sermon, comes back, and this young boy is still sitting with his eyes closed, motionless. Madhav Das ji again puts his hand on his head, he opens his eyes, and Madhav Das ji has only one question to ask him. So what have you decided? And this young boy says, I will come with you. Madhav Das ji says, let's write to your father and get his permission. How does he know that the father is not here, is in a village a few hundred kilometers away? The father reading this letter is worried. Who is my son going to follow? And where is he going to go? And what about this career that he's preparing for? When the father comes, he asks his son, what do you plan to do? He says, give me permission, give me your blessing so that I go with him. The father says, and when I grow old and I need someone to take care of me, who will do that? And this young boy, 18-year-old, says, call me whenever you need me and I shall drop whatever I am doing and I will come and do my duty to you. The father is happy, gives him the blessings, and this young boy goes with this sannyasi who he has now chosen as his guru. During the course of these teachings that Madhav Das ji taught to Sri Yogendra ji, as he then came to be known later on, they went to a hill station in Mathera. And at that place there was a baronet. And this baronet had a son who was so sick that the doctors had given up all hope and said that there is nothing more that we can do for him. This baronet was a disciple of Madhav Das ji, and when he sees Madhav Das ji at this hill station, he pleads to Madhav Das ji, please save this son of mine. And merciful as these evolved yogis, sannyasis, rishis, monks of the 20th century, Madhav Das ji agrees and the son is actually cured. In gratitude, the baronet wants to give some gift. Madhav Das ji says, what use are gifts to monks like us? And declines. Whatever the baronet offers, Madhav Das ji declines. Eventually, this baronet says, allow me to at least take a photograph of you with my family and my son. We have Mr. Pillai over here, with whom I had the fortune of learning in a seminar of his. And the baronet, when he says, let me take a photograph, in those days, those huge cameras, Madhav Dasi says, why do you need a photograph of mine? What use is that? The baronet insists. Madhav Dasi keeps even declining that in all humility. And when the baronet is very persistent, finally Madhav Dasi tells him, so what do you want me to do? He says, please stand. Madhav Dasi says, and then what will you do? He says, I will click the photograph and then I will show it to you. Madhav Dasi says, what use will be this photograph to you if I will not be there in the photograph? The baronet says, the camera will do its trick if you stand there, please. And Madhav Dasi says, his wish stands over there. Because I saw you there, you were there, and you were not in the photograph. How is that possible? Finally, Madhav Dasi says, well, if you want, nothing great about it at all. That's the humility of such great people. But if you still want to know, it is mentioned in so-and-so book. And Madhav Dasi mentions the name of the book. Madhav Dasi never brought this up again. Founder never brought this up again. Years later, in his journey across India, gathering original manuscripts, Founder came across this little book, which he remembered was the name that that his guru had told him, explains what that whole mystery is all about. And as Founder flipped through the pages, he found one sentence out of the 195 sentences, which is this little booklet that I showed you about, the Yogasutra of Patanjali, that exactly talks about how this is possible. Interesting. The Yogasutra of Patanjali, what is it all about? What is it so unique about this book that a practicing psychiatrist, when asked at an international conference of psychiatry, and he had come here to the Yoga Institute, the oldest organized center of yoga in the world, 95 years old. He came specially to study that, and when he came to know that it is only in the teacher's training course that we teach it, he stayed for 6 months and he presented a paper, and at the end of that paper there was a question and answer session. And at the end of that question and answer session, the chairman of this entire event that was there tells him, Bob, I want to ask you one question, and I would appreciate it if you can give me the answer in one sentence. Says, Bob, what would you say is the one fundamental difference between Western psychology and what you say yoga psychology? And this man, practicing psychiatrist, Dr. Robert Sherman, said in one sentence, where Western psychology ends, yoga psychology begins. So what is the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali all about? It is about the mind. How do we understand the mind? How do we train the mind? How do we control the mind? How do we master the mind? And the last sentence may baffle us. How do we go beyond the mind? I have a problem. Maybe a health problem, an emotional problem, a relationship problem, a work problem, or a financial problem, or maybe even a spiritual problem. Somewhere to solve any of these problems, do I need to use the mind? Yes. Yoga is concentration. So what does this mean? Something wonderful. Whenever we concentrate, we have knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or unconsciously brought yoga into the whole. When a sports person plays any game, cricket, basketball, football, are they concentrating? When you are listening, do you have to concentrate to listen? Whenever we concentrate, yoga comes into the picture, whether we have formally learnt it or not. And Vyas goes further and says that this ability to concentrate is inherent, is there within all the 5 types of mind. The word for mind, by the way, in the Yogasutra is what? It's called chitta. And unfortunately, the word mind nowhere comes close to explaining this Sanskrit word chitta. So the founder of the Yoga Institute would translate this word as personality complex. So when we go a little away from into the suburbs, we see a number of gated communities, many buildings put together, and they are a complex. So when he translated chitta as personality complex, what does it mean? The chitta or the mind is made up of different components. And when we say personality, what does it mean? The uniqueness of each one of us. And what does yoga say? That behind this uniqueness that so many of us are proud about, ultimately there are only 5 unique. And within these 5 kinds of chittas or personality complex, what does it do? It influences every single thing that we do in life. Every single achievement of ours, as well as every single failure of ours, is ultimately coming from this mind of ours. And the shifter does not want to think long term. This mudha cannot think long term. It cannot go deep into anything. It doesn't realize that in solving the problem, it may have created more problems. And this can be true of the highest level. Like at a very large level, Russia thought it would invade Afghanistan, but it created a bigger problem for itself. USA thought that it should arm the Mujahideen, and we will ensure that the Russians get out of West Asia and the oil. And that's what they thought. And they thought they will solve the problem. The Mudha Chitta. Let's go a little higher, shall we? The Vikshipta Chitta. What is the Vikshipta Chitta? Most of the time distracted, occasionally steady. When it is steady, it understands its problems, difficulties, weaknesses. It agrees and accepts that I have weaknesses and limitations. It starts putting in effort. But so Patanjali tells us yoga is concentration, according to Vyas, and concentration all the 5 minds are capable of doing. It is only in the second mind that faith is strongest, complete, total. And this chitta is called the Ekagra Chitta. Remember the story of the Kaurava and Pandava princes we have all learned since our childhood. Dronacharya teaching them archery and asking each one, what do you see? And people say stars and skies and trees and birds and forests. And everyone, Dronacharya says, stand aside. And finally this young prince comes and says, asks him, what can you see? And says, I can see only the pupil of the eye. And to him Dronacharya says, take aim, shoot, release and it hits. That's the Ekagra Chitta. Initially balanced, steady, calm, later on focused, then concentrated, eventually it becomes one-pointed. And this one-pointed mind, we have all had glimpses of it. This is a mind that is completely transformed. Imagine what this kind of a mind cannot achieve if it wishes and sets out to achieve whatever it wishes. In that lies the promise of the system of yoga. In that also lies the challenge of the system of yoga. The challenge is, how do we move from these lower minds to the second level at least?